How living in the UK has changed me. Hi everyone, my name is Vitaly. I'm from Ukraine, and after 4 years of living in the UK, I have completely changed. I don't know if it's a good change or a bad one, but I'm simply not the same anymore. If you had asked me 4 years ago what I found strange about the UK, I would have given you a list of things that I found strange or unusual. But if you were to ask me the same question now, I would honestly struggle to answer. Okay, maybe just a few things. So let's dive into the 7 biggest ways the UK has permanently changed me. First up, I became more polite. Living in Britain has trained me to constantly use sorry, thank you, and please. It's a complete shift. It's not that I wasn't grateful before, but people just don't use these words as much in other countries. Think about this. You're in a supermarket, walking down the aisle. If another person is looking at the product and you have to step in front of them, even for 2 seconds, you automatically blurt out, sorry. You would never experience that in Ukraine. Or take asking for water. Back in Ukraine, I would just say, can you give me a glass of water? You might add please, but that's not necessary because you have already said can, and that's enough. Here, you find yourself saying things like this. Do you think you could possibly give me a glass of water, please? Saying that in Ukraine would sound totally bizarre. The next point is real estate. I live in a house here in England and I'm absolutely ecstatic about it. Why? Let me put this into perspective for you. In Ukraine, almost half of the people live in flats, but in the cities, it's a massive 80% living in apartments. Compared to the UK, only 20% live in flats and 70% are in houses. In Ukraine, I grew up in a city the size of Derby or Stoke-on-Trent or Wolverhampton. My apartment building had 8 entrances, 5 floors, and housed 120 families. Living in an apartment building felt normal. Everybody was living there. And probably if after moving to the UK, I had ended up living in London, in a flat, it would still be normal to me. But I was lucky enough to get a job in the south of England and ended up in a house. And now, I cannot imagine moving back to a flat. Having even a tiny garden, having a dedicated parking spot where I can actually work on my car, is just so cool. Another thing that I would never have imagined is the biggest shocker for me. I live in a village now. Growing up in the city, the idea of living in the countryside was my worst nightmare. Ukrainian villages often don't have paved roads. They used to be associated with hard physical labor, growing all your own food, tending to pigs and chickens. I'm not saying that growing your own vegetables or meat is bad. It's probably much healthier than buying everything from supermarkets. But it requires so much effort, and you don't really have time for anything else. People work really hard there, and that's a tough life. But the villages here in the UK, they are stunning. They feel so authentic, and honestly, they feel much safer than cities. Crime rates are often lower. If I needed a dose of city energy, I just drive to the nearest town. But then, I get to come back home and enjoy the quiet and the safety. I can actually walk down the street with my phone in my back pocket without worrying it's going to be stolen. That is a freedom I don't feel in bigger cities. Next on my list is driving. I'm driving so much more. This is down to 2 main things. First, cars are way more affordable here than in Ukraine, where most people rely on buses. I don't use buses where I live now because they are really inefficient. Again, in big cities like London, you can use public transport because it's frequent. But out here, buses often run every half hour or even just once an hour. Second, in Ukraine, and the same in Europe, shops are usually within a 3 to 10 minutes walk. Here, my closest market is a 30 minutes fast walk, one way. That means doing my shopping takes me 2 hours. It is so inefficient. If you live in London or another big city, then you will have a different experience. But since I live in a village, it's basically mandatory to drive everywhere. Moving out to money, I started using a credit card. Never ever before had I had a credit card. I grew up with the belief that credit cards are evil. They are tools for people who can't manage their finances, leading them deeper into debts. That's a common view back in Ukraine. By moving to the UK, I quickly learned about the critical need to build your credit score. This number is everything. It influences whether you can get a loan, a mortgage, or even a good mobile phone contract. A higher score means better interest rates, potentially saving you hundreds, if not thousands, of pounds over time. So I took a plunge, applied for a credit card, and now I use it constantly to build that score up. Let me be clear, it takes time and huge responsibility. Don't expect a quick fix, but you have to start somewhere. The next point I call the freedom of wellies. Here I see people of all ages wearing rubber boots just to walk their dog in the woods. Back in Ukraine, unless you work in a field, no one wears wellies. Why? Because in Ukraine, people care way too much about what they and others are wearing. There is constant social pressure about your outfit. But here in the UK, nobody gives a damn. You can truly be yourself. Since moving here, I have embraced a minimalist lifestyle with my clothes, and I have experimented with my haircut so many times because I don't feel people's judgment. You can try different things and be yourself. This feeling of being able to be yourself is so cool. And finally, I learned how to invest and started building my pension pot. In Ukraine, there is no private pension system. When people retire, they only get the state pension, and it's small, just like here, because it's only a percentage of your official taxable earnings. When I got my job offer here, they mentioned that the company contributes a small percentage to my pension pot, and I can contribute too. I was thrilled. Of course, I opted in immediately. However, then I found out that this money is going to be taxed when you withdraw it as your pension. Soon, I discovered how to invest tax-free up to a limit per year using stocks and shares ISA. This means you can make your money work and make more money for you. It is your future, and those returns are yours to keep. The takeaway is, even if you start small, investing will make a huge difference in the long run. So those are the 7 ways living in the UK has fundamentally changed me. I want to know, if you have moved to a new country, what's the biggest change you have experienced? Tell me in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more insights into life in the UK. See you next time. Bye!